I will follow your lead. And just in case this is necessary, I give you permission to cut me off and pause me anytime you want to go deeper or take it somewhere else.
Dude,
this is your show, bro.
If we're going, we're going with it, man. That's the beautiful thing here. I'm usually pretty good at rotating or pivoting if we need to be, but nah, man, I people are used to us going down lanes and dark holes here with my show. So
I got it. Well, you know your audience better than I do, so I'm just going to follow your lead. Okay.
Perfect. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, Scott Carson, your host. Excited to be here with you this actual afternoon we're doing, but I'm more excited about our special guest on today's show. Our special guest is somebody that I met last year at New Media Summit, was a fellow icon of influence there, somebody who's just doing a tremendous job with their podcast. And, he runs a couple different shows. More so than anything else, I'm more impressed with the man and how he walks the walk and is a beacon of light for other entrepreneurs out there. And he's if you see him watching the video here, you see him. He is the man, the myth, the legend, Joseph Warren, who hosts the Broken Catholic podcast, but also the first 100K show out there. And so, Joseph, we are so honored to have you on today. Look at that standing ovation from our crowd out there to have you here. But welcome, man.
Thanks, brother. I couldn't tell if that was clapping or line dancing.
Well, it could be either here in Texas. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Down here walking there.
I just wanted to see you dance. Thanks for that.
You don't want me. Thanks. Trust me. This weekend with the event we're both going to, I will not be on the dance floor with DJ Doug. I'll just pass that on that.
I hear you, bro. I'm excited about Tampa, man. And I'm excited to see you because, Scott, you stand out, man. You stand out above the rest. And thank you for that introduction. And I want to say, dude, I acknowledge you because I think you walk the talk as well. You don't go out there and do a lot of hype and marketing push. You don't so much say, here's what I'm going to do, here's what I'm going to do, here's what I'm going to do, like so many other entrepreneurs. And rather, I see you constantly saying, here's what I've done. And what I mean, like you actually do the work and you let your work speak for you and you're showing up all over the place and you're getting it done. And I think that's a fantastic approach. And it's definitely missing with many entrepreneurs right now who want to talk about what they're going to do in the future rather than say, hey, look back on what I actually did.
Thanks, man. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing I think is missing out there is I think everybody loves to talk about the successes we have in today's world. It's knowing what the steps were and the trials and tribulations that we overcome to get where we're at today. You know what I mean? And then I was so honored to have you be on your podcast, the first 100K show, but I thought it's such a relevant topic and have you on to talk here today. Because one of the great things that with me coaching and teaching people in workshops, people hitting 100K is usually like their first big goal as an entrepreneur. You know, they're making $30, $40, $50, $60,000 as a salary, but they want to become their own boss of some sort. And that's one of the big things that we try to talk with people is like, listen, hey, set a goal. I mean, if you want to make $1 million, you got to make $100,000 first. And you've got to grow into that aspect or that animal or that mindset so much more than anything else than where you're at now. And that's one of the great things I've loved about your show and listening and binging to the previous people your previous guests on there talking about some of the things that they've gone through. And so I thought it'd be a great thing to talk about that in this episode, some of the things you've heard people overcome, along with also how important I think having faith in oneself and faith in God to help kind of support you there during the down times. Because, yeah, everything's great and everybody loves to give grace to God when they score the winning touchdown or going, Super Bowl. But I think it's having that faith in oneself and knowing that, hey, what's being thrown at you isn't going to kill you. God only gives you what you can handle. A lot of times I'm a big believer that God gives you something so that you can grow into that person you want to be.
Yeah, got it. So, wow, you just covered a lot of ground. I don't know where to pick up the ball, dude.
I like run-on sentences.
Yeah, got it. Let me jump in on the first 100K. I just got back from the 10X conference, that Grant Cardone thing here in Miami, Florida. And that was a cool experience. And he really speaks about 10X your life, 10X your income, 10X your business. And so many people are listening to the advice, the wisdom, the strategies, the tips of millionaires and billionaires, and they're struggling to make their first $100,000. Well, just know that those strategies, tips, and wisdom at that level of success will not work for you down at your first 100K. They just can't. It's a totally different environment altogether. So I do believe in some of the things that Grant promotes, 10x your business, right? But first, stop shooting for the $1 million. Like you're saying, if you are struggling to make your 100K, make that your target, make that your goal for 2019. So if you're bringing in $1,000 right now, and that's it, you're like cash flow poor, and you just started your business, or you've been going at it for a while now and you're still struggling and you're only making $1,000, right? Go ahead and 10x that, turn that into 10 grand, right? Then 10x that again. And you really push yourself to make the $100,000. Once you get through that milestone, then 10x the 100K. Then you're at $1 million. Then 10x the million, which simply means apply those strategies and those systems and those processes that got you to where you are now, systemize them and start scaling and 10x it. But so many entrepreneurs, I think you're spot on. They don't build the systems and processes around the 1,000. Like, what's working that got me $1,000? Okay, now that I got to 1,000, that's my first little milestone. All right, processes, systems, platform, foundation, got it. Now, how do I scale that to 10,000? Right, and then processes, systems, etc. Then to 100,000, processes, systems, etc. And keep 10xing it that way. And so many times they want to just leapfrog to the million or to the billion. That's not how life works, right? So it just doesn't. So you could keep chasing the pipe dream and you'll keep showing up on your social media as full of crap, right? You're the hype person. And there's too many of them, right? And you can bling your watches and your cars and all this other stuff. Meanwhile, you're going home broken alone. Or you could get real and actually face your mess and say, you know what, this year I'm going to set a smaller target and I'm going to be that guy that tells you what I did, not what I'm going to do, or the gal.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. Yeah, the Gary Vaynerchuks, the Grant Cardones, there's a bunch of those guys out there doing big things, but that's the whole, and that's why I think people get frustrated. They're used to seeing this and wanting to do what they're saying, but that's not the same, the advice that they should be getting when they're down on the ground floor level and getting started. You got to talk to the people around you that are doing the 100K, go there, get that down, then you take level up and go from there and go for it. But if somebody's flashing their Lambo or their watch, they're not really an entrepreneur. I think they're more of a douchepreneur more than anything else out there. Because I would rather be rich and not known versus trying to be Facebook rich and be broke at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
I really get that, dude. And you know what? I used to be that guy. Like I'll put it out there. I used to be that guy. I wanted to look good and I wanted to avoid looking bad. And I think most of my energy actually went more towards that than towards building my business. Does that make sense?
Totally does.
Yeah.
It's almost like keeping up to keep the lie alive, right?
That takes a lot of energy and a lot of effort. And for any of your listeners right now or your viewers, maybe that's you right now. And I don't think Scott and I are here to make you wrong about it, but we're here to say, hey, listen, like you got to look at what's real and you got to take a hard look sometimes and just ask yourself the simple question. Is it working? Is it not working? Well, if it's not working, change your approach. And so many of us don't want to face the ugly that we've created in our life or in our business. And we want to keep, pretending it's working, but it's actually not. And we're miserable. Right. Matthew Kelly, author, he calls it most people are living lives of quiet desperation. And I think that really sums up what's happening. We're all living these lives of quiet desperation, all struggling with the same exact issues as the next guy. And yet we're all pretending it's not there. It's not happening. We're actually doing great. Look at the highlights of my life. Just keep playing the highlight reel, but never actually watch the movie because it's a horror movie. Right. And sometimes your life and your business can look like a horror show. It really can. But it's up to you to step into it, I think. And I could tell you, going back to, me personally, Scott, when I got over the trying to look good And I just said, man, this isn't working. I'm tired of being in pain. I'm tired of suffering. Like, and I looked at my business and said, okay, what is working and what can I scale? And then what isn't working and what can I lose and drop off? And when I started like deep diving into the business and kind of filtering out that way, more things started to work and my life started to get just a little easier and then a little easier and then a little easier. And it's because I was facing reality and I was looking at the ugly and I wasn't running from it.
That's a good point. Can you share a little bit more of your background, kind of what got you to where you're at and stuff like that for those that are listening out there?
Yeah, sure. What part of the background would you like? Because supposedly people have told me I've lived 9 lives of the average person. Just because I've tried more stuff, Scott, than other people, and call it I was green behind the ears and young and naive, right? I just put myself out there and I was like, I was a curious dude. So I would try more stuff and I put myself in really dangerous situations. However, I grew tremendously, leaps and bounds. So the stuff I've done, some of the adventures, yeah, I've had like multiple lives in that regard. What would you like to speak about?
So I think I maybe share that moment, because I think as entrepreneurs, we all have that moment of clarity. I know when I was getting started, when I was doing this 10 plus years ago, I literally had a kind of the come to Jesus meeting. Hey, what am I doing? Because I was doing a lot of different things. I finally had to have an honest conversation and look at myself in the mirror. Hey, this isn't working. What I need to focus on this. I need to just put all my other toys and distractions aside and just dive head first in that. And do you remember that moment for you?
I would say I've had that moment multiple times. However, I was stubborn and resistant the majority of the times. Trying to think of an example. Sometimes you can have too many examples and it makes it difficult to choose one. I could speak about, trying to think of a lesson here. I'm totally catching myself off guard here. Let me speak. I'll share a quick story because one for the entertainment value, and I think it will give you a little bit into some of the dumb things we do as entrepreneurs. So in my first business at 19 years old, I had a professional fundraising company for national nonprofit charities. Simply means most charities suck at raising their own money. So we started a for-profit company that went out and did the grunt work and raised the money for them so that they could do more good with the causes that they were serving. And we took a transactional fee, and that was our model, right? And that paid for my team and our growth. And within 12 months, we grew from $0 to $2 million in revenue. And we were like, what the heck did we just build? So we just started scaling it and systemizing it. And we scaled into different cities in the country. Well, a lesson that I've learned specifically was what works in one city or in one market does not work in another market. It's just not how it works. And a case in point was we got Chicago up and running, got it to $2 million within 12 months. And then I sent my assistant manager out to go ramp up Los Angeles. And the next thing I know, he's on the phone with me crying like a little girl. And I was like, dude, what are you doing, man? Like, you're my tough assistant manager. And this guy, you got to get, he was like, the way he occurred, he was like a wrestler type guy. And he was just like in your face and loud and a sales guy. And he would get people to cough up money constantly for all these great causes. And that he was my number one guy. He was fearless until he met Los Angeles. And Los Angeles kicked his butt. To the point he was on the phone with me every single day about to quit, about to leave the company. And I was like, man, I got to do something about this. So I really decided, I didn't want to leave Chicago and I didn't want to go and like out to Los Angeles. I had stuff I was doing, but I think sometimes, and here's a lesson here, is sometimes you really got to lead by example and you got to really invest in your team, in your members. And that means sometimes getting back to the front lines with them and getting back into the mud with them, even though you feel you've earned the right to no longer ever go in the mud or the front lines again as a business owner. Like, you cross the line, you've arrived, so you're not going backwards. And I think that's just ego. And I learned that quickly. So I made the choice and I went out to Los Angeles and I wanted to see what all the whining was about. And I was fearless back then. And sure enough, we went into these stores because we would go and let me just fast forward the story here. By the way, how long are we going with this conversation? Just so
We're good. You're good. I'll tell you if we start running out of time. You're golden.
Is this a 30-minute show? Is it a
30 to 45 minutes, man?
Got it. Clear. Thank you. So we go out to Los Angeles and he's like, wait till you see what I'm talking about. People out here are nasty in LA. And I was like, okay, whatever. People are people to me, right? So we walk into the first store and we used to go in and just ask for donations, tax write-off, receipts, credibility, right? Everything. And we walk in and I open the door and all of a sudden they start yelling and cursing at us as soon as we walk in. Like, get the F out of here, you bleeping mofo, bleepity, bleepity, bleep. And I was just like, what? Like, what the heck? And he goes, see what I mean? Like, I can't even get a word out. So we leave, we close the door, we go into the next store. Same thing. And it was like almost like pressing a hostility button when you open the door. Open the next door. You bleeping, I'm calling the cops, get out, right? Go to the next door, same thing, one after another. Eventually, I was like, whoa. And I said, why don't we take an early lunch? And I really wanted to look at what was I being faced with. There's a new problem here I've never faced. And as a business owner, you're faced with new problems in your business every single day. So the story, hopefully you're pulling from it. And I sat there, and sometimes the most productive thing you can do, Scott, in business, as you know, is to do nothing, to sit, to get quiet, right? And we could talk about faith as we move forward, but now I get quiet with God, right? And I let him pour into me the solutions, the creativity, the problem solving and all that. Back then, I was very godless. So I looked to Joseph as the answer. And I don't recommend this. However, it kind of worked a little bit back then. And I sat there and I was like, okay, new problem. What do we do? And then I remembered something that from Tony Robbins books, right? Motivation. You're probably a Tony Robbins guy. And he said, whenever two people meet for the first time, whoever is more certain will always influence the other. And that really, like, that memory came to the top of mind. I was like, okay, got it. And then the other part was something I had created, always mirror the person in front of you and then add 10%. Like, that's the key, add 10%. So if they're occurring as kind, be just as kind plus 10%. So you always control that situation. So all of a sudden I'm like, well, they're not being kind in LA. They're being hostile and rude and nasty. Okay, I'm gonna have to pull out some old New York stuff and I got to turn this up and mirror them and then add 10%. So we walk into the next store and I remember very specifically, I turned to my friend, his name was Frank, my assistant manager. I said, I want you to follow my lead, just move as fast as I do. And the whole time, just look pissed off and follow my lead. Just look pissed off. I want you to, whoever the owner is, in the next place we walk into, just eyeball them like you want to kick their butt, right? And follow them in the lead. And he was like, okay. So we walk in, it was a jewelry store. They buzzed us in. They had no idea. I walk in full throttle, dude. Immediately they see we're solicitors. Get the F out. I'm calling the cops. Bleepity, bleepity, bleep. I fast forward. I yell at the guy. I say, shut up and sit down. The entire place went quiet. This is a jewelry store. Keep in mind, they think now that they're being robbed. Okay, got it? And there was customers, right? So he pipes up again. I said, get out. And I said, shut up and sit down. Bro, he did. But hit the seat. I said, listen, I'm going to lower my volume and tell you what we're doing. He's like, nah, it's scams. It's this, it's that. I was like, no. All I need you to do is shut up and listen and then decide what you want to do. But if you're going to occur rude with me, I'm going to come right back at you. Or we can have a civilized conversation. You could just listen and then say no or say yes. Right? And we're in agreement. So we did that. Point, fast forward, it worked. He gave money. And then I said, oh, by the way, and I planted a seed, a hook. I said, just so you know, you and I are now in a business relationship. We're going to come in every single week, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to continue to donate to this cause and get a write-off every single week. Right? And he was like, okay. We walk out. My buddy was like, what the bleep did just happen? I said, we just figured out how to take over Los Angeles. We went into the next place. They start yelling, get out. You believe it? I said, shut up and sit down. Same thing. They gave money and I set up for the recurring. And we did this 10 in a row. They all said yes. And my buddy was like, oh my gosh. Point being, You got to look at your market, look at what changed, right? It's that book, Who Moved My Cheese?
Mm-hmm.
Your cheese moves. You got to adapt. Whatever that is in front of you, find a different way, over, under, and through. Bro, in the next 12 months, we did $2 million in revenue in Los Angeles.
Wow. That's such a, golly, it's an awesome story. I can literally see the people, because I've had that happen there before. You walk in, they don't know that you're there as a client. I hate to see them be that way to a client or a customer, but it's a different mentality, and you've got to change your approach to things. So we see that a lot, especially we're dealing with distressed borrowers. They think we're the evil bank, They call upset, yelling at us, and I'm the same way. Listen, I can yell back at you, or we can talk and have a real conversation. And sometimes, I've had to, hey, just shut up, lady, or shut up, man. Listen for a second. It's not necessarily compliant. Fair debt collection practices compliant.
Yeah, got it.
But but you're right. One of the biggest things that you said is he or she who's louder for the most part, or is more confident,
more certain,
is more certain, exactly, is going to have
influence on the other.
Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. Influence of the person. How much have you seen with having the show of sometimes our doubts having that much more influence over us? Have you seen that with a lot of the entrepreneurs you've talked with, where it's that inner thought?
Yeah, 100%. So I speak about the mental game of entrepreneurship on my podcast, First 100K. And Scott, I got to tell you, I have guests that just crossed the 100K mark. I have guests that did 500 million last year. Okay. Like that range of guests.
Right.
And I could tell you the number one thing, if you asking me this question, Joseph, what's the number one thing all your guests wrestle with? That's common. What's the pattern? It's this: whether they're making 100 grand or 100 million a year, imposter syndrome. Somehow they think they're a fraud and they're going to get found out. Like people are going to discover that they're not really as smart as they are, or right, they're not as good in sales as they are, or they're not as successful as people think, even though they're doing like 100 million a year and they have all the evidence of success on the inside. I believe this, and I say this on my other podcast all the time: your mind is a liar, your heart speaks the truth. Your mind is a liar, your heart speaks the truth. And as an entrepreneur, when you get that you're not your mind, that your mind is just the operating system and it's there to serve you, and that it constantly is lying to you because it's trying to protect you. But the problem is it has bad code in it, i.e. our fallen nature, right? Biblical, Adam and Eve, all that stuff, right? There's broken code. So it's associating everything equals death. Right. So if you're like wanting to, meet that great relationship, your spouse, your future partner, and you walk over, like you're thinking, oh, there's that beautiful girl. Your mind goes, nope, don't go over. She could reject you. You remember the last time you were rejected? Do you want to feel that way again? Do you remember how bad that felt? And immediately going over and creating that new opportunity equals death. So your mind is constantly turning everything into fear and death. And when you get that your mind is not you and you're not your mind, and your mind is a liar and it's doing what it's just programmed to do, but you get to choose in the matter. Okay, my mind says this. I acknowledge it. Thank you for the fear. Thank you for your contribution, brain. I choose this anyway. And you step into whatever it is you want to create in your life starts to work, Scott.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a nugget, everybody. Hopefully everybody took that down, is listening to that, and just hit rewind like 30 seconds to go back and listen to Joseph again, because it is so truthful. So the things out there, I've got great friends like yourself and other operators, but who are scared to death still to go out and talk in front of people from the stage or their clients. They're just fearful, even though everybody looks up to them. They're scareful because they think I'm a fraud, or the fact is I'm going to end up choking, and not providing content, or I'm scared they're going to kill. I'm going to die of fear. That's a sad thing out there. And one of the things I always joke about, I always try to get people to think about as a kid. As kids, we don't know any better, right? We're running around like a crazy person, barefoot, without a t-shirt on, picking up frogs, snakes, putting stuff in our mouth, ears, whatever. If we had to learn how to walk as adults, so many of us would be paraplegic, because we'd fall down once and would never keep going with it. And that's so much with the mind playing tricks on us. And I think a big chunk of that obviously comes from our backgrounds and experience and those that are influential with us. What would you say to somebody besides the fact, hey, my mind is one thing, my mind's line, do you think we going from there? What are some tools that you would suggest, or you've heard from some of your guests in the show, to how to help overcome those little things?
Well, it's interesting because many of my guests that have become very successful in business, Scott, they've spent a lot of their energy, time, resources, et cetera, in building their business empire. Mm-hmm. And now they make a lot of money and they're super uber successful. And that area of their life works. However, other areas of their life got neglected along the way, and other areas of their life are in ruins. Mm. So I'm able to speak to them about what I do, which I have a spiritual coaching business. And I work with uber successful business owners that they're winning in business, but they're broke in life. They're broke in their marriage. They're broke in, communication with their kids, or they have no real connection with their creator, their maker, their God, their higher power. Whatever name you want to call it, everybody's got a different name or whatever. I call him God. I call him my heavenly Father. But to answer your question simply, what's missing, it's all an identity problem. The number one thing we have broken in our society is our identity as individuals, and therefore collectively as a group, as a nation, right? And what it is, it's identity. And who am I? This is the burning question in a whole humanity. Who am I and why am I here? And we don't take enough time to get quiet and look for that answer. We're constantly chasing the next dollar, right? Listening to Gary Vee and Grant Cardone, and God bless them. If you want to win in business, those are your guys. If you want to win in life, you may consider me. I'm your guy, right? Because I can help you in the things that really matter that money can't buy, right? So that's what happens. And the biggest thing that I have seen in some of the people I've worked with that has been the biggest thing in my life, to go from living this godless, chasing money, success, and pleasure. Those were my three gods. And I got all three of them, dude. I won. What society told me, you can have this, I got it. And you know what? It was an effing lie, dude. Because I was empty, I was miserable, I was broke on the inside, and I was suicidal. I wanted to take my own life. It was that bad, my depression. But I had everything on the outside that people looking in, oh, I want to be like you, dude. I'm like, no, you don't. Right. And the biggest thing that I got was spending quiet time with my God, to let him speak into me every morning who I am, why I'm here. Because if I don't know those answers, dude, I'm trying to find my identity in what I do and how much I make, what's in my wallet and what's in my closet. And what's in my garage, right? And as men, we wrestle with this more than women. Women wrestle with it, but as men, we really wrestle with this as business owners. And you can fill all those things and you'll still be broke on the inside. Mm-hmm. So why not fast forward and go around it, right? The best way to learn is to learn from others' mistakes rather than going through the pain yourself. So why not start chasing the things that really matter? And I promise you this, Scott. When you and I and your listeners start focusing on their identity, like, who am I? Why am I here? What do I want to do? What does God say he wants to do with my life? I believe once we get clear on that, money starts to show up, because now we start showing up in the world from a place of authenticity, because we're not leaving God and our belief systems outside at the front door of our business. We're bringing our faith right into our business. And that doesn't mean we're preaching at our clients. That wouldn't work very well.
Especially not in LA.
Right, exactly. But what it means is we're not being apologetic about it. As an example, I own office rental companies here in Tampa, co-working spaces. And we started incorporating a very simple thing into our greeting when people would leave after a tour. And I would just say, have a blessed day. And I got to tell you, that simple thing, have a blessed day. Or when they walked in and I'm like, hey, how are you? And they're like, great, how are you? And I go, I'm blessed, thank you. The I'm blessed and have a blessed day immediately would trigger something in people. And they would go, I would have people just stop me dead in my tracks and go, are you Christian? And I'm like, yes, 100%. And they're like, oh, me too. And immediately conversation went to God and faith and all these other things. And a deeper bond was formed. Now, for other people that weren't Christian, religious, or whatever, it was just a nice gesture. They were like, oh, thanks. Have a blessed day too. Or I really like that. Yeah, I'm blessed. Yeah, you know what? I should be more grateful for the stuff in my life. And immediately it was so simple, but it was a seed of faith into my business. Anyone can do that, Scott.
Such a powerful message and such great nuggets there. I totally believe with you. I totally believe it and wholeheartedly agree 150% that the moment you can start taking time to center yourself, to figure out what really is important, what really is focused, and embracing, I won't say your plan, but maybe what God's plan has for us. Because I think he's got a plan for all of us. And the longer that we fight it, the more miserable we are. The more things lead to things happening. It's just, I think of several times across my life, especially one in 2010, bad partner, you've been divorced for a year or two, trying to figure out what the heck I wanted. And I had the idea to travel the country for a little bit. It was just an idea. Oh, what the heck? Maybe it'd be cool. And suddenly, boom, opens up. I was like, well, I can't leave Austin. I love Austin. Austin's home. But suddenly, over the course of a few days, all these opportunities presented itself to me. I'm like, okay, this is not me talking. I think it's God talking here. He's putting the path in front of me. I either can take the choice and go with it, or I can sit here and fight it and be miserable in a toxic relationship and things like that. And I took it, and it was one of the most powerful things I've ever done in my life. And it's the same thing that I highly recommend everybody each morning. I get the office. It's the first 10, 15 minutes, quiet, just, a little bit of meditation, or a little inner reflection. Where are we going? What are we focused on? What do I need to really focus on, whether it's relationships or business stuff, but really taking that time to take it in. And I love your live streams that you do in the mornings a lot of time as well. I jump in and listen and watch those when I have some opportunities, but I touch the growth. It's sitting outside a cup of coffee, reading your Bible, or sitting outside and just meditating, clearing your head, trying to take all that negative noise that is coming in constantly from so many places for us. It's really hard to do that. A lot of people struggle with that, right, Joseph?
I agree completely. I believe, right, like the old Joseph, Scott used to think it was a this or that scenario. And what I mean by that simply is this. Okay, I can either bring faith and God into my business and be broke, or I can focus on making profits and leave God out of the business. Right? It was a this or that. Mm-hmm. And what I've quickly learned is that it doesn't have to be. And I'd like to give your listeners permission to build faith and profits into their business. And that's one of my taglines, is building faith and profits into your business, because it can be a this and that scenario. Mm-hmm. And when you can show up congruently with your belief systems, whatever you call them, name them, whatever, that's fine. But show up with your values and your principles, your belief systems, your God, and bring that into your business. Now your business is whole and complete. Why? Because you're showing up whole and complete, and your business follows you. You're the owner. And when you're showing up half, because you're leaving your belief systems, your faith, your God outside of it, guess what? Everyone sees it. They're just not telling you because they like you. They don't want to hurt your feelings. Well, so they're not telling you.
But also, I think it's a beacon in today's world too. You're not being afraid to share that and live that. People will see that. And a lot of times people are looking for us as entrepreneurs out there. As Seth Godin likes to say, we all have tribes, right? And living and doing what you want to do, and following that path, people are looking for that. People are looking for leadership and somebody to help guide them on that way. And God, let's face it, we all make errors along the way, and entrepreneurship is not a straight road, ups and downs and cuts and back. But being able to stick with your faith, your guts, your beliefs is such a rarity, I think, these days. And it's also very refreshing when you come across people that are doing that, because, hey, it doesn't have to be either or. Somebody's going out and making it happen because they put that first in their business, in their lives, to really help them, stay on that straight and narrow path if they can.
I think you're absolutely right, Scott. Like, I look at the old way of how I used to do business, and because I left my faith out of it, I constantly had to come up with the new hype, the new marketing play or manipulation, narrative that I had to create to constantly bring in sales. And it wasn't bad what I was doing. It's what is accepted, or it's what we're all doing, right? It's constantly coming up with new shades of lipstick to put on the pig, right? But even if you're creating value, right? And I'm creating value with my businesses, but it was so much pressure, right? Because I constantly have to do hype marketing. Why? Because I was showing up incongruent. Now, when I bring faith into my business, I just show up and authentically speak to people. When people come in for a tour in my co-working space, I just sit with them and I'm present, and I don't have an agenda. I don't have looking at them like they're a wallet or a credit card. I look at them like they're a human being, and I just sit and I listen and I ask questions like, what's going on in your life? How can I help you win? Mm-hmm. And then by the time we get to the close, they're like, so how do I get started? Like, I don't need to do all the push marketing and sales anymore. Now it's a pull, because you said it very well. It's attractive. They're like, wow, this person's different. There's a light here. I don't see that anywhere else. I want to work with them. I want to be around them. Yes, I like the value. Yes, it can help me with my problems. But more importantly, they're buying you, mm-hmm. A whole person. And they want to do business with that person. That could be you. So if you're listening right now to Scott's show, and Scott's brilliant and he's a smart guy, that's why he asked me on as well. You see what I just
did? Into that.
Yeah. But like, if you're listening right now and you're tired of coming up with the manipulative hype marketing, your answer is get real in your faith and your belief systems. Get quiet in the morning, spend some time to really get centered. And even if that looks like meditation, or it looks like what I do, which is that I do a daily holy hour, which is 60 minutes in quiet, just listening to what God wants to tell me about me, about my life, about his plans for me, what he wants me to do in the business. And then I go in grounded, dude. That's why I don't have the agenda and the stress and the anxiety. I just have peace of mind now. Where in the old Joseph, man, I was stressed like a mofo, working 110 hours a week. I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah. I think that speaks volumes. Quality of life is not always quality of toys, and chasing that aspect of out there. I think as we grow older, a lot of times we get wiser, and I don't want to do this anymore. I want to find something that makes sense. And sometimes less is a lot more when it comes to quality of life, and know where you want to be, peace of mind, and less stress for sure.
Got it. Let me ask you this. You know your market and your listener and your viewer really well, Scott. What do you think might be the question they would love to get an answer to right now?
That's one thing. I'm flipping over on Facebook. They got a lot of people that, they're loving what we're talking about. Let's see here. Being nice doesn't always have to take faith. Let's see here. What else? Safe. People are commenting on our travel stuff and things that we're going to here. 1 second here.
While you're doing that, can I just speak to that comment of being nice?
Yes.
Yeah. So I learned a valuable lesson. I used to show up as the nice guy in most of my business, and it was disadvantageous to me most of the time, because a lot of people, when they're tempted to do the wrong thing, they just do, which means they'll walk on niceness. They'll take advantage and ask for more until you're just like tapped out. So I used to show up as the nice guy in the big heart, and a buddy of mine gave me great advice. And he said, Joseph, your big heart is your number one problem in your business. And I was like, well, shouldn't we have a big heart? Like, that's who we're called to be. He's like, yeah, have a big heart, but here's the difference. Don't be nice in your business, right? Don't do charity in your business. Do charity outside of your business. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? He's like, dude, be kind to people, but don't be nice. Nowhere in the Bible does God say, be nice. Stop being nice. He calls you to be kind and to be loving. And sometimes kind and loving is to say, get the F out of my business, right? You're the wrong person. And that's the kind thing to do. It's not nice, but it's the kind thing to do. Or sometimes the kind thing to do is say, you know what? I really want to work with you, but I honestly don't think we're the best fit for you. Mm-hmm. But my competitor over here is, right? And that's the kind thing to do. So once I learned that, dude, I was able to show up with my team better, whole and complete, not take their reasons, excuses, and blame for not hitting their goals. And I didn't have to be nice to them anymore. And I just said, listen, I love you. I care about you. Please understand, I'm running a business and I've created an awesome opportunity for you. And this is what's required of you. If you're not willing to do that, then you're choosing to fire yourself. Mm-hmm. And I'm totally at peace with that.
Well, I think it hits a nail on the head what I was thinking. a lot of people, because a lot of people struggle here with the fact, especially in the distressed note game. Well, should I give this borrower another chance? Should I be nice? And you hit it exactly on the head. Being nice isn't necessarily helping somebody get out of their own way or really help them overcome things. Being nice is great, but it's not, sometimes tough love is the better thing to say to people. Like you just said, hey, I love you as a person, think you're great, but I just don't think we'd be a great fit working together. And I had to tell somebody that today too. Somebody reached out and said, hey, I really want to work with you. I'm like, I think you're great, man, but I just don't think we're a fit, just because we've got different goals and agendas out there. And I just, I love you as a person, but I just don't want to be in business with you. And they were kind of surprised, but I think they respected it a little bit more, because I don't think anybody ever told them that before. So
yeah, it's about saying what's real and just coming from an authentic place with people, and not being, stop trying to control all the outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
That you're causing your own suffering.
Oh yeah. That is the truth. We are all guilty a lot of times of putting things under our own fingernails.
Yeah. Like if it's meant to happen, it will pull you. You don't have to push on it. Like that doesn't mean don't take action. Take action and knock on the door, push on the door. It should open. That means it's the right thing. It's from the heart. But if you're kicking at the door and it's still not opening, it's the wrong door. Move on.
Amen to that. I think that's a great stopping point there for where we go. Joseph, what's the best way for our audience to get in contact with you, reach out to you, to talk with you more if they're looking for some help?
Yeah, got it. So I have a free gift for your audience if you like. Yeah, they could go. I know this is live, so the links are still being put up, but in the next few days, they could go to this link, josephwarren.net/possibilities. That's josephwarren.net/possibilities. And what I'll do is, in exchange for their email address and starting a relationship with me, what I'll do is I will give you access to 2 of my favorite Broken Catholic episodes, which are faith-based for all denominations. 2 of those episodes, and it will be the video of the actual podcast interviews. And this is not available anywhere else. I haven't put these anywhere else. So it will be the video itself, the video content with my guests. And I promise you, if you like some of this content today, you're going to love that. Included with that, on that link, I'm also going to give you free access to what Scott spoke about, which is my Facebook Live that I do every single morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 days a week. And I'll invite you in. If you want some virtual accountability in getting quiet and meditation in the morning time, and you've been wanting to do that for a while, but you just don't know how to get started, I'll show up every single day and kind of coach you through that. And you'll get to have someone there on camera with you so that you're not alone. So I'll give you access to that as well. Again, josephwarren.net/possibilities.
Awesome, man. I really, really appreciate it. And guys and gals out there listening or watching this live, definitely take it up. Opportunity, definitely, to help you grow and maybe help you overcome some of the obstacles that are holding you back, whether it's you're chasing your first 100K, or you're chasing your first deal, or trying to figure out what the heck you want to do when you grow up. Take Joseph up on that. Great opportunity there for you. Thank you so much for offering that, Joseph.
You are so welcome. God bless you, Scott. You're a beast in the business world, man. I love it. And I'm looking forward to seeing you here in Tampa and hanging out with you. And let's go smoke a stogie, brother.
You know what? I will have to do that. You got to love that. Tampa is a great place for that.
I'll bring some.
There you go. Good stuff. Well, hey, guys and gals, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. I want to say thank you so much for our people watching on Facebook, sharing comments. Those that are listening, always feel free to go on over, leave us a review, leave us a comment. Love to hear from you. Like I said before, check out Joseph's podcast, The First 100K Show, or the Broken Catholic podcast. Does a great job. You can always go to josephwarren.net to find out all the amazing things that he's doing out there in the industry for not only himself, but also entrepreneurs just like you and me out there. So go check it out. Take some action no matter what you do, everybody. And we'll see you all at the top, everybody.